Elder. That was pretty awesome. What a great absolute honor it is to be here today, and most especially to be with you. Just on a personal note. So let me just begin in the language of my mother by saying Ohayo gozaimasu, and in the language of my father, Mitakoye Oyasin, we are all related. Be a mayalo to my relatives and my ancestors, whose shoulders I stand here upon. I'm grateful today for the many ways our ancestors light up our night skies and offer prayers for us, that we might accomplish for them, for ourselves, what they could not do. And so in my heart and my spirit, I know that I am here as an answered prayer or a hope to those who went before me. And I want you to know you are that too. For the stories that my elders have told me long ago, where when you look up into the night sky, so I'll challenge you tonight to look if the night sky is clear, mind you. So it has to kind of be clear. If the night sky is clear and you call those stars that appear, we call those campfires. We say they are the campfires of your ancestors. And your grandmothers and your grandmothers before you look down upon you every night and they pray this prayer. They say, may she be the one. May she be the one that brings forward the good, the true, and the beautiful. May she be that one. They look down and they say, may he be the one that brings forward the best of our family ancestral heritage. May they be the ones. Long ago, on my own personal journey of healing and reclaiming myself, my whole self, this was what I was challenged with. And my grandmother said to me, the day that you choose to be the one, you will go out upon the earth, raise your arms to the campfires and say, yes, grandmothers, may I be the one. I want you to look to your right and left and say to your sister and brother, you are the one. You are the one. I'm grateful for the warrior spirit that runs through my blood. That is the ancestral heritage of my Japanese immigrant mother, who suffered in abuse and trauma, but whose warrior spirit brought her to this country at a time right after the war, and Japanese Americans were interned in our own country in a great time of shame. I'm grateful for the warrior spirit that is my father, an African American, Native American man, whose journey told me that it was worse to be a red man in our country than it was to be a black man. And you know, that's pretty bad. When the time I was a small child, I knew there was something wrong with my name. I was not raised a Whitefeather. My name was White. And at the time as a small child, I kept saying there's something wrong with our name. It's too small, it's too short, it's cut. There's something wrong with this name. I can't feel the spirit of this name. So 25 years ago, before my father passed away, in his great fear and shame still, he gave me the name of a great aunt whom I had never met, who carried the story of our people, our family, who told me I was a Whitefeather. And that was the day I took my name back for myself and for my grandmother and my great-grandmothers. That was the day when I made a decision that fear would no longer be the God I worshiped, and hope would set the way for the future. So I'm grateful today to be here. I'm grateful to stand on the shoulders of my ancestors from all four winds, for I am born of four races. There's a 10% of me that's white, and yay, huh? That means it kind of makes it kind of hard to be a little bit of a racist when you're trying to make yourself be whole. You got to find value and worth in every part of yourself. But the challenge for me was that I was born of these four winds, in 1952 in Dallas County, Iowa. Yup. Where I was the first multiracial child to be born in that county. People lined up at Kings and Daughters Hospital to see what I might be looking like. They called us its then. For you see, it was only 6 years before that where it was legal for my father to have married, where there were interracial marriages were legal in 1946. I'm happy to be here. I have been part of this movement since 1979, and like most of us who've been part of this for a really long time, it isn't anything that we volunteered to be part of. I want to remind us in this room, let me just acknowledge some of the other dinosaurs in here, right? So, dinosaurs are good things, I'm just saying. I'd like all of you who have been part of this movement for 10 years or more to stand. I want us to acknowledge our sisters, come on. Who've been part of this movement for more than 10 years. And then if you could remain standing, if you've been part of this movement for more than 15 years. If you could remain standing if you've been part of this movement for more than 15 years. If you could remain standing if you've been part of this movement for more than 20 years. If you could remain standing if you've been part of this movement for more than 25 years. If you could remain standing if you've been part of this movement for over 30 years. Here we are. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Yep, most of us retired. I retired and was brought back. So here we are. Because why? This is connected to our own journey and our own lives. I want us to remember that the beginning of this movement began with us, women of color. They didn't take pictures of us then, but we started this dang thing. I want you to understand it, we did. There was one white woman among the five. But we were the marginalized, underserved people because social justice movements always begin by those affected by injustice. That's an important part for us to remember because how many of us are waiting for someone else to take that lead, someone else to say what's so. I'm grateful to be here. I wanted to, in my conversations with Carlene, we were just chit-chatting away, and being one of those who's been in this movement for going on 40 years, I was lamenting the lack of color in the leadership of our movement, where in the beginning, that's what we all had. And I'm like, well, what happened to us? What happened to all our voices? Where did we go? We were the loud ones, the proud ones, the ones that voiced our suffering, the ones who spoke the truth, even when it was uncomfortable for people to hear it. So here's a sidebar piece, a little thing I'll give you right now. I had an Apache teacher once say this to me, so this is really cool. You'll want this. The truth will set you free, but first it will piss you off. All right, write that one. That's good. Keep that one. I've been keeping that one for 30 years. And anytime I have some Malcolming things to say, I always end up saying, if you're pissed off, that was truth. So that's what I intended. So there you have it. I'm happy to be here today. I say that because while I'm telling you I was born of those four races in 1952, I'm also going to share with you then the rest of my story in sort of a nutshell. You see, my earliest childhood memory is at 3. My father was 6'2", 220 pounds. He was a U.S. Army veteran. He was active duty at the time. Boy, my dad loved being a veteran. He loved being a warrior. And nothing made me prouder of my father than to see him standing underneath grandfather's sun and let those rays of light bounce off the brass in his uniform as he towered over my little 5'1" mother. It was a beautiful day that day. And as a 3-year-old little girl, I thought There could be no one stronger, braver, or more of a hero to me than my dad. And then I saw the shotgun at his head. Well, we were being transferred from Fort Campbell, Kentucky, to Fort Benning, Georgia. And at the train station, my father, in his full dress uniform, was made to ride on the train car with the animals, cargo. My mother, myself, and my sister, who looked whiter, were allowed to ride on the train car with people. My feelings went from this great feeling of protection and hope and pride, where I also saw in my father's face in that one moment a deep humiliation and powerlessness to do anything to change that before his wife and children. And he swallowed it. And I watched my father swallow year after year in his life. On that day, at 3 years old, I said to myself, I think that white people are people you should be very, very afraid of. We were then moved to Germany. My mother became very sick with tuberculosis, and they sent us to Denver. She was pregnant, and my sister and I were put in a Catholic receiving home. This is from the time I'm about 3.5, 4, to about 5. It is here where I am sexually assaulted and physically abused by the priests and the nuns in this Catholic receiving home. This was a common occurrence for children of color, Native children, and mixed-race kids in the 50s. No one would have noticed if we had been killed. No one would have known. For 2 years, my father would drive up from Colorado Springs, pick up my little sister and I, and then we would go to the hospital and stand outside the window of the sanitarium because, you know, she was in isolation, and not be touched or held or hugged by a woman who could not even speak our language, and we could only speak Japanese to her. I could never tell her anything that was going on because here's what I heard while being abused. God will never listen to you because you were born a sin. That went to my soul, you understand? Because then I knew that no matter what happened to me, I could not even pray. I could not even pray. There would be no power greater than me that would help me or give me hope. And I'm 3.5 years old already. You know, it was when my daughter was 3 that I realized that 3 is small. I always thought I was grown up. I always thought I was 3 was like I was powerful and I was strong. And I always wondered why I felt like a failure because I couldn't parent my 18-month-old sister better. Until I had a 3-year-old, I realized you're not supposed to be parenting nobody when you're 3. But it took me to have a 3-year-old daughter to realize you're not supposed to be parenting nobody when you're 3. And so no wonder I always felt like a motherless child. From the time I was born, my role was to protect my mother. I'm the firstborn of 5. I was the American wife to my dad. So though my dad was my hero and someone I admired and respected, my dad was also my perpetrator. He has sexually abused me from the time I was a young girl to the time I was 16. At 16, my dad retired from the military. We were living in Montana. You know, we never get sent to really places where there's lots of people of color. You know, I'm starting to wonder if I'm the only one in the world after a while, right? So at 16, I'm in Montana. And after a football game one afternoon, I'm coming from the gym to the parking lot to put my stuff in the car. And I am accosted and assaulted by 2 white men, beat up, raped, sodomized, and left for dead in a hate crime. Because it's not against the law to do that to Native women, to Native children, or women of color. I don't remember how I got home. And I don't know anything except there was a moment when, how the part of what I do remember is they stomped on my feet, broke my feet with the cowboy boots, so I couldn't run away. And then just take turns. At some point in time, I had to reach deep inside the darkest part of my soul and find some anger that replaced my fear. And boiling up from deep inside of me came a rage that said, if I'm going down, you're going down with me. And I'm going to take you right out. Now I don't care anymore. I will do whatever it takes to end this suffering. And you looked like to me to be the source of that suffering. When I got home, my mother saw me. And I obviously looked like something had happened to me. But her first words, because we lived in fear of my dad, and everything was about looking good and never looking like you had a problem. So she said to me, don't let daddy see you like this. I learned to put on makeup that day. I learned to put on makeup to cover bruises. I never learned to wear makeup to look pretty. Makeup was a cover-up. It was never anything about enhancing one's looks. It was that day that I decided the only way for me to get out of this is to go to school, to go to college, but I did not go to college because I had some dang career I wanted to have. I went to college because it was 1,275 miles away from my family. And I would have taken any school that would have given me a full ride as long as it was at least 1,275 miles away from my family. So unfortunately, I ended up in Greeley, Colorado. Boy, can you just, I mean, you know, I have a white karma, I'm just saying. I'll bring it back around, but I do. So I'm at Greeley, where, you know, the Asian part of me kicks in, and I'm the student, I'm the studious student, right? Graduate with, you know, 3 or 4 majors, 4 or 5 minors, you know, whatever it is, take 25,000 credits a semester because this was the way I could numb out by being an academic. But at the same time, it was right at the height of all of our civil rights and Vietnam War. That's when I went to school. So truthfully, I'm here to tell you, I majored in Weld County Jail. I had 33 arrests in college, and that's pretty much where I spent my time. I got brand new books in the garage still in 2016 that never were open. I graduated a degree in voc rehab because they said no woman could do it, so I did it. And I did it not because I even knew what voc rehab was, but they also said no brown woman had done it, so I'll just be the first. I don't even know what it is. Never spent a day in it. You know what I'm saying? It was just one of those things, and they said you couldn't, so I said I would. I was inspired by Angela Davis, who mentored me. So there you go. Black Panther Party, I joined it. Card-carrying member. And do you see how radical they were at the time, you know, about equal education for everybody? And that's so dang radical, isn't it? We should really, like, that's on my record even. When I had to get a security clearance for the government, you know, I had to, like, confess. And then when I had to get fingerprinted here as an ED of a Community for Peace, I had to tell the chief, okay, this part's going to come back. Let me just tell you about that now. And I'm proud of it. So I don't want it to go away. You would think that would be over, as much as that was, but in my sophomore year, I got a roommate from Boston, Massachusetts, named Patty Johnson. Patty was long, blonde hair with blue eyes, and she used to say to me, Elaine, you're the saddest woman I know. You're sad all the time. And you're just working all the time, and you're so sad. You know, you don't come to college to be sad. You need a party. I'm like, I don't need a party. Because I was so afraid of my dad, I thought that even if I cut a class 1,275 miles away, he'd still find out. I don't know how, because we didn't have texting or any of that then, but I just believed the man would always know what happened. 1 year of being nagged, you know how us survivors are. We know how to get you off our back. So yeah. Okay, I'll go. And so I went. And I hung out in the back of the room because that's what we do. We filled the square. We showed up, right? I'm here. Elaine, I bring you to the party for you to hang out in the back of the corner. You're just bumming everyone out. Here, drink this. And I had my first drink. And after having that first drink, something happened. The thing that happened was something went away. I had the second drink and I noticed, hey, wait. This thing, this deep aching pain thing, this thing that I thought was just part of me, like my nose and my eyes, is starting to go away. I'll have another. And pretty soon I didn't have it at all. And Patty's like, look, you're smiling even. Have we even seen you smile in the whole time I've known you? And I'm like, oh, my God, this is called a smile. Oh, my God. I'll have another. At the end of that night, I was gang raped. At the end of that night, I made a decision, a premeditated intention to murder myself, which is what suicide is. A premeditated intention to murder yourself. So, you know, I can't pray, right? Because I was born a sin. So I can't pray. And this thing that makes your pain go away, well, look what it did. It cost me that. And all my silence wasn't keeping me safe. And all my brain wasn't helping me out. And being the dutiful, trying to be the most acceptable human being wasn't working out for me. And I tried every single thing I thought I could be for other people to keep me safe. I didn't speak when I needed to speak. I didn't tell truth when truth needed to be told. I didn't stand up and say it was me when somebody needed to say it was me. No, I said I wanted a do-over. And so I went on up into the mountains, high up into the Rocky Mountains. And just like, you know, for one last thing, maybe I'll just pray for a sign, even though I don't believe anybody's going to tell me anything. But you know how you throw that up, right? That last minute, you just throw up your prayer and give me a sign. So here's the thing I'm going to give you today that I didn't have then. The wisdom about asking for a sign is this. Add this part. Make me wise enough to see the sign. All right? To see the sign. Walking on a trail, I was at a retreat and sitting in the back of the room. And at a break, it was actually a diversity training. Check it out. And during this training at that time, I began to understand I didn't fit in there either. Because at that time, you could only check one box. I'm 4. I'm 4 boxes. Oh, I'm 5 right now. I haven't got to that one yet. But I'm 4 at the time. I'm like, I don't know how to check 4. They don't have other yet. They don't have other. Multiracial, biracial wasn't acknowledged. You had to be one or the other. Sidebar, I played that to my advantage in college. Every year I would go to financial aid and say, who's getting the money? I got it. If it's black this year, I'm that. If it's native this year, here I am. Asian, right on. Just couldn't prove the white part enough. So there you go. So that's how I got to school. I used my affirmative action to my advantage on all 3 races. Anyway, back to the story. So I'm walking out on the trail on a break from this diversity training, and I'm praying for my sign, and all I hear is the sound of water. So I start walking toward this water, to this river, because I'm thinking to myself, this is my sign right here. See, I'd already tried to kill myself 3 times before and failed, angry about it. Very determined this time, though. I'm going to make this one happen. I'm going to make this one happen. And I am out here in nature. I'm up here in the mountains. I'm up here by the river. Nobody's going to stop me here now, so this is going to really happen. As I approach the river, I see it. I see angry water. It looks angry to me coming down the canyon. And it's slamming up against the canyon walls. And I think how that's like my life. like I was born in the middle of it all, and I don't even know what happened. And then I look down the river, and I see these giant rocks standing out of the river, and I see the water slamming up against it, and I think how like my life this is. Just when I think I get my head above water, boom, something else happens. I think me and the river, we're one. So as I go to take that first step of peace, and so I'm here to say this, as a survivor, I have never, ever, ever been afraid of death. I was afraid of living. So you see, death means the end of it all. There's no more suffering. There's no more worrying about the other shoe to drop. There's no more fear about what the future will bring that was worse than your past. No, death was about peace to me. Living was about more of the same. And so as I go to take that first step of peace and set my foot in that river, you know, the river will give you a couple chances if you're wise enough to see it, but I wasn't wise then. But a river has a ledge. And sometimes that ledge is about a foot or two, and sometimes it's about 6 or 8 feet out. But eventually you drop right into the canyon of that river, and the water spirits, will they just carry you on. So as I go to take that first step of peace, I feel 2 hands on my shoulders pull me out of the river. And as I turn around, he is an old white man. My first thought is, this cannot be good. And then I looked again. He had tears flowing down his face. I had never seen a man cry, let alone a white man cry. And he only said 2 words to me. And those are the 2 words that planted a seed in my heart that I have nourished and nurtured since I was 20 years old. And those 2 words were simply, you matter. You matter. And in that moment, I felt understood. And he helped me understand that I had never mattered to me, that you have to value yourself to save yourself. And then he did one more thing you didn't have to do. You see, he was a visiting professor from the University of Chicago. Never knew his name. Brought me back to that retreat. He just hadn't spoken yet. He happened to see some young kid in the back looking all despaired and just followed his own heart and intuition, you see. Just the kindness in his heart is all he did. And then he picked up the phone and he called this professor at my university and said, I got a young woman here with a broken heart and a wounded spirit. And I want you to do whatever it takes for as long as it takes to help her mend it. Don't mend it for her, just help her mend it. She's a strong warrior here. And so that was the second thing that someone else did for me, was build a bridge, was to build a bridge. They told me that I mattered, and they built a bridge for me to get out of the darkness. Since that day, and wherever I've gone, I've shared the story to honor that professor and all those who have helped me along the way that have been strangers, for it has not been my family. But I had to be the one. To bring forward the good, the true, and the beautiful, I had to break away from the family. For my healing and recovery cost me my place in the family. And that's a big price to pay for those of us of color. So leaving isn't always our best option. And maybe that's not the thing we want anyway. And during all of the things that ever happened to me, I felt a great loyalty and a need to protect my father from a greater oppression of racism. So I never wanted him to get in trouble. I never wanted to tell this story in mixed company. I never wanted my mother to feel more humiliated and ashamed than she was every day with him. And so CPS never would have taken any of us away. We were perfect kids. All of us were straight A's. Everybody had scholarships, all of us. Our house was so spotless. My dad was a drill sergeant, you imagine. It was spotless. So there's nothing you ever would have seen. But the suffering and the scars run deep because every single one of us is also a survivor. We have survived some horrific trauma in our lives. So, through this experience, you'd think by then everything would get better, but no, because you learn this stuff. And during the course of talking to someone who understood, I dared to touch the one last place in me that I knew would probably kick me out of anybody's life. I dared to say, I am gay. That's not a thing you want in our communities often. And I just kept thinking, what kind of karma must I have? I got all these races and you're gay. Come on. But I've come to understand something really important about being born of 4 races and gay, and that is, really, I have to check all the boxes. And all the boxes mean we're just part of being a human being, because that's how human beings are. We come in all these sizes and shapes and colors. And that I've come to understand that we were intended when we were created, and we are intended now. My mother never did ever come to any truth. She died last year, still living in the denial that she had lived in all her life. My youngest sister stays angry about it, and I help her understand, well, I get it, but I also think this. Would we have been able to watch our own mother die at 12, watch her family be killed during World War II, come over here to the United States without speaking a lick of English at a time when no one is going to accept you in an interracial relationship, and to have 5 kids? I don't know, somewhere she's kind of tough. Somewhere she's kind of strong. Somewhere besides, if you look past all the things that happened to you, you are not your trauma. In here, I'm telling you, you're not. It's just crap that happened to us. It's crap that happened to us. And here's what I want you to know today. Are you here? You are here, aren't you? They did not take that, did they? It does not matter what they said. It does not matter what they did. It does not matter what they will say and what they will do. Are you still here? So you have a spirit that is stronger than fear. You have a soul that will urge you forward when even your ego does not wish to go. Why? Because you stand on the shoulders of 10,000 and 10,000 before. We are part of a movement that belongs to human rights. And when Hillary said human rights are women's rights and women's rights are human rights, that is where our movement started, Article 3 and 4 in United Nations. This is a human rights, social justice issue. Let us be clear. And so as I think about that, I think about then our voices. You see, when I started in this movement, I was mentored by Ellen Pence, who we call the mother of DV. And I'm just an impressionable little 26-year-old sitting on the Southern California Coalition on Battered Women down south. I don't know what that's all about, but these women are impressive to me. I'm thinking, whoa, these are some powerfully truth-talking ladies here. And I had not yet even been able to say I got a story. These women opened the door and made the way for me to speak. And I flew up to Sacramento over and over again to share my story with the California State Legislature so that we could criminalize domestic violence in California. I understood then that the power of my voice and the power of my story gave permission to my Asian sisters to speak a story, to my Native sisters to speak a story, to my African American sisters to speak our story. Because that's what changed this issue, was our truth. And so I'm calling us today to say, well, last night I thought long and hard about what I wanted to share with you today. And I wanted to bring back these 3 elements of social justice that I have put into every single program, and I've run 40 of them. Internationally and nationally, these are the three elements that are always present in every domestic violence program I've been blessed to be a part of. Here you go. The very first thing you need to do to create social justice is that you must create an environment where the truth can be told. That's what you just did here. Did you not? This is what we must also do out there. In here, you've created a great safe space for us all. And I can tell you, as a woman of color in leadership, you know, not leading a whole bunch of people of color. So most of my team are not people of color. Most of my work and where I am is about forging changes in systems. I don't get to deal with people of color in leadership. I got to deal with the systems. It's important that we back each other up. It's important that we don't divide ourselves. It's important that we stand together shoulder to shoulder and understand this is my sister, this is my brother, and we are here for justice for all humanity. Because it is true that whatever affects one of us does affect all of us. And someone said yesterday, you touch one, you touch, 1,000? I say, we touch one, touch 10. You will change their lives forever. But you must create an environment where the truth can be told. So here's the first thing you need to do. Tell yourself the truth. Tell yourself the truth. Tell yourself the truth. And the truth is this. You're not a victim. That you've never been one. You are a survivor. But more than that, you are a thriver. And here's what I mean by this. Domestic violence is not something you get over. You don't get past it and you don't get through it. It changes you forever. So you make it be part of your reason for being. Here's what I've discovered. Your power is in your pain. Your power is in your pain. And your pain will lead you to your greatest purpose if you will follow it all the way through. Tell yourself the truth. If you're angry, be angry. There's reason to be. If you're afraid, be afraid. There's reason to be. If you're hopeful, be hopeful too, even when those around you are not. Own your own truth, what you stand for, what you believe in. Because as long as you know what your truth is, you will always stand by it, and no one shall move you from it. In your workspaces and in your communities, create the environment where truth can be told. Agreement isn't always creating harmony, you understand. As survivors, we can shut up a lot and create harmony. That didn't mean it was real. It just means we were trying to not get in trouble. And remembering that the truth will set you free. So it's okay for people to be pissed off about it too, right? Create an environment where the truth can be told. That means everybody's voice counts. And everybody's voice must be heard. There is an element of truth in all things. The second thing you have to do for social justice is that you have to create an environment of accountability. So here's what I want to say to you. Stop trying to be part of the system. You cannot challenge a system by being in the system. You call a whistleblower then. Domestic violence is an out-of-the-box movement because the system has failed us over and over and over again. So we need to learn how to live outside the box. I was telling this to Chief Boyd the other day. I said, oh, Chief Boyd, you know, when we, our agency is only 9 years old. So as we came up and coming here in these last few years, I said, nobody thought we would do the things that we have done. And nobody would let us play in the sandbox because we were the newest young girls around. But we didn't care because we're survivors. So we made a whole playground on the outside of the box. And now everybody wants to play in our playground because we're not part of the system. And we are better able to do things in a non-traditional and innovative ways because we are not part of the system. We can call the system to accountability. And that is what we're doing. So we can't be afraid of that because just because something exists doesn't mean it's right. Just because it's been around a long time doesn't mean it's the right thing. When I worked for the Department of Defense, in my last time working for the military was in Hawaii. And I remember sitting in front of the 4-star general, and he'd go, Elaine, this is too radical. This is like, it's just like, have a shelter. I know it's really radical. This is really radical. They're going to talk about this stuff in the military. It's just not the way we do things. And I said, sir, if the way it was good enough, then I don't think I'd be sitting up here talking to you in the first place. I think I'd be picking cotton somewhere. If that's the way it was good enough, I don't even think there'd be a U.S. Air Force, as the Army would just still be here. If that's the way it was good enough, I think my native people still own this country. I'm just saying. If that's the way it was good enough. So clearly it was not. So we are here now. So let's move this thing along. I'm still that way. Create an environment of accountability. And the last thing is this. You must change the conditions that cause the issue. So I don't go away from law enforcement. I bring them in. I'm like, no. Y'all have a problem with domestic violence. Y'all know it's a crime, right? That's how I start. Y'all know that domestic violence is a crime. Let's start with that with law enforcement. You get that, right? 273.5, or I'm just name off the little penal code. Like, it's a crime. That's why you have a code for it. All right. That means you have a problem with this crime. And I say to the county and DHA, y'all have a problem with all the folks that have domestic violence, don't you? And CPS, y'all know you have a problem, don't you? Y'all know you have an image problem, too. I'm just saying. And I go to the faith community and I say, y'all know you have a problem. Okay. I want you to understand that the Community for Peace and all the domestic violence programs, I know we don't have a problem with domestic violence. We're your solution. Y'all have the problem. You should invest in the solution. I want you to take that mindset with you as you move forward. We are the solution. The prayer answered. They are sending up the prayer. Change that around in your mind and your heart, because we don't beg for no support. We're asking you, if you want some peace in this world, you're going to invest in it. And we are the people you're going to invest in. Why? Because we know what needs to be changed. We know what needs to be done. Now, our task is this. We have to change the conditions that caused our silence. We have to change the conditions that caused our silence. And so here's what I'm going to say to you today. I think that the elections, if we believe that everything is for us, then let's try to do something with this election. To me, it was the most annoying wake-up call you could ever get. You did not wake up to no music. You did not wake up to no soft little Tai Chi energy. You did not wake up to nothing that's going to be, and kumbaya. No, we woke up to hate and fear in a White House. That's what we did. We woke up to that. And I can tell you, as an old person of color, I was not the least bit surprised. And I had mixed feelings. You see, on the one hand, I was real happy that truth got exposed about what has been so in our nation. This ain't new. This been here. We've been yelling about it a long time. But you've been telling us to shush up because we're too loud. I'm telling you, we should have been louder. Let's get louder. That was an annoying wake-up call. But during this entire campaign, truth was being revealed. And truth is still being revealed. And you cannot heal something that is a lie. You have to deal with what is real if you're going to change it. This is our wake-up call. Silence belongs to them. It's time for us to speak. So last night I was reminded of our Hopi elders' prayer. And I'm going to give that to you now and challenge us to live it, because now is our time. Our elders say, we have been telling the people that the 11th hour is near. And now we must go back and tell the people that that hour is now. And there are these things to be considered. Where are you living? What are you doing? Are you in right relations? Where is your water? Do you know your garden? I'll pause right here. In this first part of this poem, they ask us, where are we living? Are we still living in our past? Or can we, with boldness, see the truth of our today? Can you bring forward in our Tai Chi the best strengths from what you survived? Let me just tell you something about being a great survivor, okay? See if you haven't thought about this about yourself. Because this is what I'm telling my survivors group all the time, which is named Divas. I named it Divas because I wouldn't go to something called peer support, but I go to something called Divas. So we're called Divas. So I say to Divas, the best part of me is that I am a survivor. It's the part that makes systems scared because I can outlast you. I can out-hustle you. I know someone's running a game on me when they're running a game on me because that's all I've lived. I got more determination and dedication and devotion because I must to survive. You'll need me before I'll need you, is what I always say to the county. But I'll be right here. You'll need us before we need you. I said to the attorneys, because, we don't really do those ROs that much. I just tell CPS we do them so that you can get off our back and we can keep our kids, because you haven't gotten a clue about who needs to really be accountable here. They're telling us, asking us what we are doing. Are you using everything that is inside of you? As I tell them, I don't have any more courage than you do. I don't have any more faith than you do. I don't have any more fierceness than you do. The Creator gave it to us all equally. Here's what I've learned to do. Use what I got. I just use it all. I just use it all. And I'm going to tell you this. For those of us over 60, come on. Where's my elders in here? All us over 60 people, right? We have less time on this planet than we've been on it. We ain't wasting nobody's time. You hear what I'm saying to you? This is what I said to the mayor the other day. Look, I'm old. I'm postmenopausal, so I don't give a royal F what I'm saying. You know what I'm saying? Deal with it. I have sweated for 15 years. I have been red when I don't want to be red. You see what I'm saying? That gives you your rites of passage right there, ladies. So that's what you get to look forward to. Men, stand down. Stand down, because it's coming. Here we go. They're asking us, are we in right relations with one another? And right relations with one another means, can we walk with reverence and respect and honor for everybody's life? Can we see that all life is sacred? All life is sacred. Can we understand that every person on this planet has equal value and worth? No, we don't have the same contributions. No, we don't have the same skills. No, we don't have the same strengths. No, but we have equal value and worth. Everybody brings something to the table. Everybody does. Make sure you include everyone. Where is your water? Where's nourishing you? Where's your source of sustenance that's growing your garden? That's growing your vision, that's growing your purposefulness. Don't keep going to a dry well. Don't keep pushing a donkey up a mountain. You know what I mean? Because how much time do we spend pushing donkeys up mountains? A donkey don't want to go. A donkey don't want to go. Y'all been donkeys yourself, right? Just think about how many times people told you need to change something. You didn't change it till you was ready, right? No, you did not. You know you need to change this. You're like, I know. You know you need to change this. I heard it. But you know you don't do it till you're ready. It's true about everyone. Nobody changes until they're ready. So go where the river is flowing. Find the people who will walk with you. Find the people who will walk with you. And they can be some very strange, as we heard yesterday, bedfellows. They can be some very strange partners. Do you know your garden? Which means, are you intentional about what you are growing? Are you growing your resentment and your fear and your hopelessness? Are you going to grow your courage and your strength and your determination? I just think with Mr. DT there, I'm just got to say DT because I can't really say the whole name. Don't think I will. But DT up there is reminding me that if you're going to be that big and bold, I'm just going to have to be bigger, bolder, and brighter. Bigger, bolder, and brighter. You see, that's a call for everybody there. So I think we kind of need that there. I think we kind of need that there so we don't lull ourselves into some kind of complacency that things are going to be okay. No, they ain't going to be okay till we make them that way. They are not going to be okay until we take charge of this dream and drive it where it needs to be. Our Hopi elders say, it is a good time to speak your truth. Create your community and be good to each other. We have enough out in this world that's going to rip us apart. We have enough out in this world that's going to take us down. There's going to be enough pressure and force to reverse things. We must be good to one another. We must be extra good to one another. Our elders tell us, don't look outside yourself for an elder, because it's for a leader, because look what we got in that. Don't look there. Don't look in no White House for no leader. They tell you, don't look outside yourself. If you do that, it could be a very, very good time. You see, there's a river that's flowing very fast. It's so great and swift that there are those who will be so afraid, and they will hold on to the shore, and they'll feel torn apart because they will suffer so greatly. The elders say we must push off of the shore and into the river and hold our heads above water. Then look around. Look around. See who's in the river with you. And let's celebrate. Let's celebrate. We pushed off from that is old and has outworn its usefulness. They tell us that at this time in our history, we are to take nothing personally, least of all ourselves. For the moment we do, our spiritual growth and our healing comes to a halt. The time of the lone wolf is over. So, gather yourselves. Banish the word struggle from our attitudes and our vocabulary. All that we do now must be done in a sacred manner. For they tell us, folks, we are the ones we have been waiting for. This is the challenge our elders have given us long ago. This is our hour today. We are social justice advocates. We are way showers for a dream of tomorrow. Those of us whose stories reflect the truth of what must be changed and healed in this world for the coming generations. This is us. And I think about this. What story will they tell of us? What story will they tell of us? What will be our legacy? And I guess I'm thinking like that because I'm over 60, so you start thinking like that. So if you're not 60 yet, don't think like that. But just know it's coming because it happens naturally. Sort of like driving with 10 and 2, it happens. Comfortable shoes, it happens. I don't know. But as an elder, I want to say this to you in this natural place. I don't have the youthfulness to have the energy that I had to fight. And I recognize that the fight has to take place in a different way. I don't have the anger that I had to fuel myself against all odds. But today I have healing and compassion and understanding to help me walk more softly on this earth. Today, I have finally found in my own life a place of wholeness and truth, that I can own all the parts of me and that all the parts of me bring a voice that's important to be heard. And because all the parts of me need that, I see that in all of you, that all the parts of us need to be heard even those we disagree with. They need to be heard. You see, we only have one planet, and we have one life, and we have one chance, and this is it. So for all of you very new advocates, I'm thanking you for joining our movement, because us old people, you know, we just can't carry it forever. We need you to be fired up and ready to go. We need you to understand that our hopes, our campfires are being lit for you. All of us together now, today, can go out tonight and look in your own family's eyes. Your ancestors are counting on us to make the vision of America what it was supposed to ever be. You know, people who have power and control will not voluntarily give it up. You understand that, right? I mean, people who have power and control don't wake up on Tuesday and say, you know, I've been thinking. Wow, I got a lot of power and control. I should share. Nope, people who have power and control wake up on Tuesday saying, I got power and control, how much more can I get, and who's taking it from me? So quit looking for people who have power and control to suddenly wake up on Tuesday and share. Stop looking outside yourself. And the last thing is this. We were never, ever, 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 ever meant to make social change alone. Every one of us has shared suffering, and we can share our suffering. And we can share our survivors' strengths. And we can share our stories. And we can share our truths. And we can take the stand for those who cannot stand, and speak for those who cannot speak, and walk for those who cannot walk, and see and hear and feel, and be the change we seek. I'm asking us all today to reaffirm, renew, and restore the strength and the fierceness of your spirit. Don't ever ask the question, what happened to our voices? Let them ask the questions, whose voices are these? And let us respond. Today, I'm grateful to be here. I'm grateful that I have survived the things I have long enough to be at a place where wholeness and my hope for the tomorrow is finally an answered prayer. I'm happy to be here today because I discovered in this journey that your prayers do get answered and that I can pray. For the day I took my name back, all of a sudden, I could speak Lakota, and my family came back to me. Oglaima Oglala means scattered to the wind. That's why you don't see a bunch of us hanging out together. And scattered to the wind for our own survival. But scattered to the wind means that we had crossed paths with all those who are unlike us. And Lakota means ally. So as I stay true to who I am and all that is in me, I seek only to be an ally to those who were once my enemies. I seek to be an ally to those who were once my enemies, for my father taught me, keep your enemies closest to you so you'll always know what they're doing. I seek to partner with my enemies and make them my allies. This, I know, is social change. On October 14th this year, I stood in front of our celebration of hope 9 years later, and I looked in that room and I saw all of CPS, 2 branches of law enforcement, our faith community, all of our partners, everyone. And I heard my grandmother say, see, this is what it is to be a Lakota. You can bring all your enemies, the enemies of all your people, in one room for one common vision. Because we know this one thing for sure, for all of us as human beings. We all need to know we matter. And we all want to feel understood. And if we know we matter and that we're understood, we will change this world. I thank you so much for having me today. And I remind you simply, we are the ones we have been waiting for. Thank you.